Now in this find the error problem, we're looking for something that's pretty straightforward because it's question number 1. Read these sentences through and trust your ear. Most of the time you're going to hear the problem in the sentence. Like, listen to this sentence. The disagreement about whether the new tests are a solution or are they a detriment is still being argued. Okay, if we look at this, the disagreement about whether the new tests are a solution or they are what? Are a solution or are a detriment. You have an intrusive, unnecessary pronoun there in they because you want to keep the structure parallel. They are a solution, they are a detriment. So B is our answer choice here. Sentence number 2. Dwayne and Carla were motivated to become a college professor after going to an English class at the local college and hearing the professor speak about the rewards of teaching young adults. Dwayne and Carla were motivated to become what? To become a college professor? No, that's 2 people. We need to have agreement here. That should be college professors because there's 2 of them. So B is our error. Number 3. I should like you and he to supply the necessary data for the report, which must be finished in advance of the annual meeting. Okay, kind of an awkward sentence, and they tempt you with I should like, which sounds a little bit stilted, and in advance of. But these are still fairly easy questions, so stay focused and look at that you and he. I should like you and he to supply. Let's just take that you and out of there, and you'd say I should like him to supply the necessary data, or I want him to do something. That he should be him. So we've got a fairly simple one here, B. Sentence number 4. The more accomplished of the many poets whose poems were read at the festival, Julia hoped to be approached by one of the publishers in the audience. Careful here, because we're talking about many poets. We can't change many poets, so there's more than 2 poets. Remember, if there's 2, in this case you're comparing 2, this is comparative, comparing the 2, you'd have more is the correct answer, which is what you've got here. But there are more than 2, so you're dealing with the superlative, so that should be most. So A is our error here. Sentence number 5. A robust business environment, excellent schools, and convenient public transportation are often cited as reasons of why the city is growing more rapidly than any other city in the state. Okay, that sounded a little funny, didn't it? Yeah, as reasons of why. Well, that's an unnecessary preposition. They are reasons why the city is growing, not reasons of why. Number 6 shows a type of error that the SAT loves to come after you with. Now, in this case, the school district was cautioned repeatedly that the program of field trips were likely to result in higher insurance premium payments. Okay, the subject of this sentence is the program of field trips. So the program was likely to result. Field trips is next to the verb, but proximity doesn't mean it. And remember, a subject is never in the prepositional phrase anyway. So this gives us the correct choice as was, needing the revision in B. This is another fairly frequent one. Many acquaintances tell us that the similarities between my father and I are more apparent than the similarities of most fathers and sons. My father and I here are objects of the preposition between. So you need the objective form of the pronoun I, and that would be me. One of the ways to be sure you have this right is to take my father out of there. You wouldn't say between you and I, you'd say between you and me. Remember, me is the objective form that you're looking for here. Number 8. Trying to capitalize on the rise of nationalism, many political scientists and members of the legislature insisted that the island country declare itself independent of the occupying mainland. Okay, this is an idiom problem. This is one, unfortunately, joys of the English language kind of here. This is one where you've got to know pairings of words. You are not independent of something. You are independent from something. So they are independent from the occupying mainland. Number 9. To most readers, Walcott's poems, like Eliot, are beautifully rhythmic, almost musical. Remember, your comparisons have to match. In this case, you're comparing Walcott's poems with Eliot the person. That's a faulty comparison. It should be like Eliot's, the possessive form indicating Eliot's poems, or like Eliot's poems. You've got to keep your comparison parallel. It has to make sense that you're comparing a person to another person or a thing to another thing. You can't mix and match. Number 10. Due to the excessively high interest rates charged by credit cards, it is advisable to pay for purchases with cash. Here we get the infamous due to. Due to is used where you want to say something like due to the fact. You use due to when you want to say something like due to the fact that. Due to is used with a noun clause, not a main clause. You do not confuse due to with because of. Because of is the form of prepositional phrase that you want to use. Don't confuse due to with because of. In this case, the error is using due to in place of because of. So A is the error. Number 11. After the game was over, neither the players nor the coach were able to explain the base running errors that helped the other team win. Classic one here, the neither nor situation. Remember, when you're using neither and nor, the verb needs to agree with the closest antecedent. In this case, coach. Coach is singular, so it isn't were able, it's was able. Neither the players nor the coach was able to explain. Remember, with neither and nor, find the noun, the antecedent that's closest to the verb. Number 12. Many critics have praised the inventiveness of her work, but not until now has they so enthusiastically elevated it to this level of achievement. Okay, that kind of screams at you a little bit when you hear it out loud, doesn't it? You've got two independent clauses, and in that second clause, not until now have they so enthusiastically elevated it to this level of achievement. Reposition the words a little bit so that it can make sense. In other words, flip it around and say they have so enthusiastically elevated it to this level of achievement. That verb tense has to be correct. It has to be have in this case. Number 13. The relevance of the argument lies in its emphasis on contemporary life. Mass media influence, inform, and they shape human interactions. This error would come under the heading of an unnecessary pronoun that affects the coordination of a sentence. In this case, mass media influence, inform, and they shape. Okay, it has to be they influence, they inform, and they shape, or influence, inform, and shape. We've got to keep it parallel. We can't change inform, so we need everything to be parallel to it. So we need influence, inform, and shape. Get rid of that they. It's an unnecessary pronoun and affects the parallel construction of this sentence. 14. Postmodernism is more a way of life than like a philosophy. It assigns no ideal values but describes, instead, how we perceive our society and its values. This is one where you need to be a little bit careful using your ear, because we'll use like sometimes as a coordinating conjunction in conversation. It's not a coordinating conjunction, it's a preposition. So in this case, it's extraneous. The corrected sentence here is, postmodernism is more a way of life than a philosophy. It assigns no ideal values but describes instead how we perceive our society and its values. See how that like is extraneous? Got to be careful there because we do drop it in there in conversation. It does not matter how slow cars are driven. Accidents are bound to occur when drivers are sleepy. Okay, you can see one of these on every test. Remember that you have to add an ly to an adjective to create an adverb. We want to know how these cars are driven. They aren't driven slow. They're driven slowly. If one truly wants to understand the play, you should read it thoroughly before attending the performance. Remember to keep things parallel. If one truly wants to understand the play, one should read thoroughly. We can't change the first one that we come to. We can change the you. So to keep it parallel, if one truly wants to understand the play, one should read it thoroughly before attending the performance. Remember, keep things parallel. It's a frequent error they cite. 17. A lawyer at the firm won an unusually high number of cases recently, perhaps because of their new policies that create a more hospitable work environment. When we look at this, it's not the lawyer's policies that we're talking about. It's the firm's policy, and firm is singular. So the pronoun there should be its, because it's. Be careful when identifying the antecedent for the pronouns. You need to look at that very carefully on this test. The mayor created an urban renewal plan for the future where independent businesses develop the most destitute parts of downtown. Okay, they're going to really try to confuse you here because you are talking about a position in downtown. But where is referring to the renewal plan. Where is actually in reference to a location, an actual location. We don't care about the location of the plan. So this has to be a plan in which, or a plan that